ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ sound.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our final session for this conference at SITSA India. Thank you so much for all the engaging interactions over the past 3 days. Today, it is my honor rather to introduce Dr. Prashanth, who will be also moderating our session, our panel discussion today. Dr. Prashanth is a medical doctor leading a team at the Institute of Public Health in Bangalore and has obtained his PhD in public health from ITM Antwerp. He has been a Wellcome Trust DBT India Alliance Fellow at IPH since 2017. Apart from his work in healthcare, he is deeply interested in natural history, especially in bird watching, and writes about it and more on his website. He's a birder, quizzer, runner, open knowledge, open data enthusiast, and has been an active user of multiple citizen science projects for a long time. He is also an active editor, contributor to Wikipedia, Wikimedia Commons. When he is not doing either eBird or iNaturalist, he's also a doctor and a public health researcher based out of a field station that the Institute of Public Health Bangalore runs at the BR Hills in southern Karnataka. Thank you so much, Dr. Prashanth, for joining us today, and over to you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Akshata, and thanks for the opportunity to join this very interesting conference on citizen science. And welcome to our wonderful citizens panel, as they have called. So on behalf of the organizers, I welcome Vidhya, Swaminathan, Anubhav, Agarwal, and Siddharth Biniwale to our citizens panel. And internets will allow a good enough conversation on citizen science and how people like Anubhav, Siddharth, and Vidhya as active professionals in some other domain are also integrating citizen science into their work and practice. So maybe we can begin with Vidhya. Vidhya Swaminathan is a zoology teacher. She teaches zoology at undergrad level, and she's been a birder, listing birds for a long time. And she's taken part in campus bird counts that she has organized from time to time that we know that bird count helps with. And she's also been very active in bringing her students into zoology and citizen science. Many of her students are today passionate birders and are contributing to eBird, butterflies, and things like that. And in 2019, I think she was among the 4 qualifiers for eBirder of the Year, I believe. So, Vidhya, thanks for coming on to the panel today. And so maybe we can start with you. What is your day like as a citizen scientist, and how do you engage with various citizen science platforms, and what motivates you? So tell us a bit about this.
So thanks so much for that kind introduction, Prashanth. I'm very fortunate that what I do is closely integrated with citizen science, because I teach zoology, and a lot of that revolves around looking at fauna around us. So even though I haven't been very actively involved in citizen science until recently, around 2017, I have been aware of nature around me. I've been very, very happy when I'm in natural spaces. So a day in my life would be at least 15 minutes of birding.
Nice. So what really motivates you to not only be a contributor on these platforms, but also, like I see from your work and your profile on bird count, etc., to also engage students and others around you in citizen science activities? How does that come about, and what are your experiences with that?
I think the motivation is basically I'm very happy to do it, and I think nature has faced a lot from us as a species, and it's time to give back. I realized that only maybe in the last 10 years or so, and it's a lot of fun to do it with other people. And automatically, when you look up at a bird and you observe something, there are at least two other people who ask, what is it you're looking at? Can I have a look too? Or do you have binoculars? Can I see what you're looking at? And that's how everybody gets involved. And I guess that's how my students have also gotten involved.
I see. Excellent. So we'll pick up on some of that. So if I understand, for you, citizen science is also a way, while you do it, is also a way of building curiosity and bringing people together and doing citizen science together is a sort of a joyful activity. Right?
Exactly.
Great. So Vidhya will come back. Next, I will move on to Anubhav. So Anubhav Agarwal is, while I pull up Anubhav's intro, please give me a moment. So Anubhav is from Madras, and his main interest as a naturalist is in terrestrial RST walks, and for several months recently he has been unsurprisingly conducting online classes for kids to spread awareness on especially on spiders and insects. And he's of course been active on IBP, the India Biodiversity Portal, and on INAT. So welcome Anubhav, welcome to the Citizens panel. Tell us a bit about yourself, your motivation, and what is your average day like as a citizen scientist, and what keeps you hooked on to these things, as opposed to doing it alone and by yourself? What makes it a community activity for you?
So, well, thanks Prashanth for the intro. And so I've always been inclined to the outdoors. I've always liked spending time outdoors. And, in the natural spaces, like I've always liked travel. So I always like traveling to the hills or jungles. And of course, over there, the flora and fauna is just overwhelming. And because I live in pretty much like a concrete jungle, of course, there's some amount of green cover and so on. But so I always, value these getaways where I can spend more time outdoors. And over time, I've, these tiny creatures, insects and spiders, have caught my attention. But back in the day, I was like, I would find something. So these were probably, just after smartphones came about. Today we take it for granted. But there was a time when having a phone with a camera was a pretty cool thing. So I guess that also added to my interest, where I found something interesting and I was able to take a picture. And then I figured that there's something called citizen science, and there are platforms for it, and where people can exchange what they found and exchange information about it. So it kind of built up like that slowly, and I'm very glad for it. And well, a typical day. So like you had mentioned earlier, my main interest is terrestrial arthropods, insects and spiders. And well, they're everywhere, right? I mean, so I open my balcony in the morning, I see some right there. I tend to my plants, I see them there. I'm stopped at a signal, I see some butterflies and dragonflies fluttering around. They're absolutely everywhere. So it's I have a lot of these natural history moments all day long, thankfully. And so, yeah, it's amazing. So it's great to see how different creatures adapt themselves to the environments that we create, and how they interact with each other in natural environments. And I mean, it's a lifelong process to learn and understand and observe all of what is happening around us.
Great, thanks, Anubhav. But what really makes it a community activity for you? Why? How do you sort of, as I know all of you are doing, in some way you are also not only contributors on these platforms. You all make some kind of an effort at bringing people around this activity. How does that come about? Why do you do that? And what are your experiences with that?
So actually, like I said, I had found out about these platforms, well, let's say later than I would have liked to. So, I mean, when I did find out about them, I thought, man, I should have just known about this earlier. It would have been so cool. So every time I came across someone who was in the same boat, who found these little tiny details interesting, but didn't know anything about how to find out more about them, understand what species, their names, and so on. So when I see people in that boat, I'm like, dude, there's a lot that you can do with this little interest of yours. And you needn't just take a photo and forget about it like I've done for some years. And today it's limitless. You want there's stuff on social media. There is social media especially for this sort of a thing, which is basically our biodiversity portals. And there's so much to do, in terms of so many ways one can engage oneself, and there's so many ways that one can engage even as a community. So, which is why I thought that it's great to start these biodiversity walks. And of course, there's a lot of interaction on these various platforms as well. So lately, I've taken to trying to spark some interest in kids. So, well, yeah, that seems to be doing well for a start. And so, yeah, it's, I mean, of course, initially it was all about me spending time by myself out there. But slowly, it changed. So some friends wanted to start coming and seeing what it is that I do, what it is that I'm lost in the fields for like hours together. And so, it's curiosity at some level about these sort of engagements in general or about creatures in particular. So, like, for some it's birds, for some it's reptiles, for some it's arthropods, and so on. So, yeah, I guess it's a bit of all of that.
Cool. And I think in our second round, we must discuss what happens in days of COVID for biodiversity walks and these kind of activities, which I know that you have been involved in. So let's come back to that, and I would also later invite comments from others. So let me move on to Siddharth Biniwali. So Siddharth is trained in geology for his master's, and he's worked in multiple tiger reserves. He's done some work on water conservation, and he's been active on bird counts, and of late has been active in the Pune Bird Atlas work. So Siddharth also brings experience, not only being a contributor as an individual in one or the other citizen science project, but also engaging with the wider community of people, community of contributors. Welcome, Siddharth. What's it like? And tell us your motivation to connect with other citizen scientists and build building this kind of a community.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Actually, it all started when I started working as a hydrogeologist, and my citizen science journey was from grassroots level and then towards citizens, like towards cities, we can say, because I'm based in Pune right now. So when I was working as a hydrogeologist, I was like part and parcel of my job was to collect, monitor groundwater data, to go to each, like I used to roam around in almost all drought prone regions and beautiful wilderness areas throughout India, and communicate with villagers and then farmers and tell them all about their groundwater levels. But then we did different exercises that, as a part of community mobilizing, we started sharing the data with them. And then last part was to train these people to collect their own data and then do their own assessments. So that was my one of the first exposures to engage with community and help them to understand this data jargon of science and stuff. Then I moved down to work as a naturalist. And to be very honest, I opened iNaturalist and India Biodiversity Portal to, find out answers for myself. Because as a naturalist, you are walking and running encyclopedia for your guest and all other people who comes and joins you on the ventures of trekking in the jungles or going for safaris or camping. And for them, a naturalist is their first point of contact, and you get all sort of questions like what is this creature, what its role in the ecology, and how it's related with birds or other insects and stuff like that. And I was always curious about interlinks, so I never stopped. Okay, I'm a bird watcher, so I'm just gonna watch birds. That has never happened. So as an actualist, that curiosity builds up, and then you start observing why woodpeckers are preferring certain species of trees, or how ants are helping some of the birds, what's happening with tiger, especially in buffer and core zone. And then I wanted to do something more, like documentation is part one, but which was happening, like I was collecting a lot of photographs, I was recording a lot of bird acoustics, and I even got a sound of tiger and then acoustics of the jungle right in the middle of jungle in Satpura. So where to put all this information so that others can also like all this can get accessible. So I started using eBird, and that was step next. And then I got involved with Satpura Bird Survey, and then we covered all entire, like it was a sort of a mystery and a dream to cover entire tiger reserve in 3 days. And we got a amazing response from all over India, and even some of the foreigners who were as a guest on local lodges, they were also like participated in this bird survey. So moving down, when I became a tour leader, this never stopped. So whenever I'm traveling, like most of the time, I'm leading tours for wildlife, and then all the guests are, yes, like even if it's not a citizen science movement, I convert it into a citizen science movement. So first day when we meet and greet in Nagpur or Delhi or wherever our main meet and greet point is, till the time we reach nearest our destination tiger reserve, I brief everyone how to do eBird checklist, and that's the actually a time when you are still connected with internet and all. So if they don't have eBird account, we open their eBird account, and that's how our journey starts. So I convert that entire tour or wildlife amusement or wildlife observing tour into a citizen science movement. So more and more data goes in. Second phase is when we are doing actual safaris and actual excursions. I convert all those guides and all local people I meet. I try to reach out to them, and then I try to link them with forums like NCF or Bird Count India and stuff like that. And that's how then slowly things get built up, where we try to incorporate more trainings, or even if I'm not going, I try to pipeline these trainings and pinpoint these locations where some of the baseline work or introduction is being done from my side. So just before pandemic, we started with Pune Bird Atlas, because I was doing freelance work from Pune, and some of us are some of the people are ecologists, some of them are just participants in Pune Bird Atlas. And the crucial thing was we were not just involved in data collection, but we made this entire process into a sort of a movement where we were at the peak before the pandemic. We were collecting data, and we were trying to understand links of how these birds in Pune are doing, along with the different green zones and sparse urbanized areas. And pandemic hit, but I was so happy that even during pandemic, though we stopped Pune Bird Atlas work, we kept it on hold, but our individual checklists were coming up. And when I recently I started volunteering as eBird reviewer, and I saw a lot and lot of data has been generated even during pandemic. So passing on passing on work, it's very easy, or to pass on some responsibility is easy. Whereas handling over a hobby and then generating that movement and something which people like and they continue that passionately is the crucial thing for citizen science. Like then you generate interest not just about data collection or documentation, but then people start observing, and they become more observant, and they feel that connect amongst their nature and all the surroundings and then creatures, and this interlinks with them itself. So that's the crucial moment, I think.
I think we should come back also to get others' views on this. How do you in your own communities then transfer this transfer and sustain? I mean, I think the initial championing of one or the other, one of the other citizen science platform, I think all of you do. But then, how does this sustain, and what your experiences are, is something I think we should come back to. But meanwhile, what is interesting is we thought we won't be joined by Prabhakaran, but I see that he has overcome technology challenges and has joined us. Prabhakaran is the fourth panelist. Prabhakaran is from Kannur district in Kerala, where he's a teacher. And he also predictably is on multiple platforms. I think primarily Season Watch, but also INAT, Bird Count, Spider Week, Moth, etc. So, Prabhakaran, welcome. Tell us a bit about yourself, and would love to hear your thoughts on what motivates you to make citizen science a community activity and not only an individual enterprise. Could you unmute yourself and I hope your internet cooperates.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes. So, I am a zoology teacher. I am actively participating in citizen science movements like Season Watch program, eBird, and iNaturalist. In Kerala, the national level citizen movement called Season Watch program of NCBS and NCF is implemented among the students with the support of state level club called SEED, constituted by a Malayalam daily called Madhrubhumi. SEED means Student Empowerment for Environmental Development. This SEED club is very active in Kerala. And students and teachers of this club watch the trees on the school campus and their homesteads to monitor the annual cycles of leafing, flowering, fruiting, and seeding of common trees every week and upload the data in Season Watch app regularly. And I have actively participated in Lockdown Homestead Bird Count organized by Bird Count India. Bird data was uploaded on Citizen Science app eBird. Then my school club members, including me, are using Citizen Science app called iNaturalist for uploading the data and photos of moths, butterflies, spiders, and other animals and plants. We have participated in the National Moth Week, National Spider Week, then Big Butterfly Month, and other programs. One of my seed club member, Sri M.B. Unnikrishnan, who started his Eco Club activities through Season Watch program, has now become lepidopteran enthusiast and has helped the Kerala team to organize National Week, Moth, Spider Week, and Big Butterfly Month. That is regarding my activities. Then apart from this, I am actively participating in the mangrove afforestation program in Kannur district, especially in the coastal belt. A lot of mangrove saplings are being collected and they are being planted along the riverine bank in Kannur. A lot of students are also participating in this program.
Wonderful, wonderful, Prabhakaran. Very inspiring to hear this. I would like. I'm curious. Of course, unfortunately for me, in my school, I did not have. Neither were the platforms available, nor was my biology teacher, unfortunately, so driven towards moths or spiders or etc. etc. I'm curious to know how is the reception from the children. Are they doing it also because you are, of course, a teacher, and hence, there might be consequences if they don't do it? Or what is your experience like in integrating this into a school educational program?
Yes, students are very actively participating in this program. And when they watch the trees, they're trying to study about the butterflies, then birds and other animals seen on that trees. Hence, they show keen interest on these animals and plants, and they study the relationship between the plants and animals, and they try to conserve these plants through these eco club activities. And a lot of students are still planting the saplings of mangroves along the coast belt in Kannur district.
Which age group are these club members largely?
Yes, actually, higher secondary students, 11th and 12th standard students.
That's wonderful, wonderful. Vidhya, I wonder whether...
May I add here, Prashanth?
Yeah, Anubhav, go, and then after Anubhav, I would like to hear from Vidhya on what is your experience, because you're also integrating these platforms somehow in your teaching and in your college for zoology. Go ahead, Anubhav. Anubhav, would you like to go ahead?
Oh, sorry.
Then Vidhya can come in.
Yeah, no, I was just, I wanted to add to your question about Mr. Prabhakaran.
Yes.
So I interact with some of his students on various forums, and I must tell you that they all find him to be a terrific source of inspiration. So I don't think it's like wielding the cane so much, but I think he really does inspire a lot of his students to connect more with nature.
That's
Yes.
wonderful. So if I understand correctly, Anubhav, so many of the students also engage in how did you happen to meet his students? Do you know each other? How did that happen?
Not meet like really, but virtually. So with some of them I've connected on like iNet. With some of them I've connected with some on some WhatsApp groups and so on, and just general interaction, discussing about a certain creature or certain species or certain behavior or so on, and then generally got talking, and then they told me where they're from and how they got into this, and so I've heard about him and about the way he inspires students, but this is the first time I'm having the chance to actually see him, well, still virtually, but still it's good to see all these faces finally.
Great. Thanks, Anubhav. Vidhya, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I agree with Anubhav. Wielding the cane doesn't really help. So when it comes to sowing the seed to all these citizen science projects, as far as my limited experience is concerned, we have a nature club of sorts in our department. It's called the Shikra Club, and we're a group of students and a few faculty. And it's not just about doing things at random whenever we feel like it, whenever we have the mood to go out and contribute to citizen science. It's more of a commitment. It starts off small, but then when it picks up, it becomes an everyday thing. So with my students, I've seen them transforming from people who were just barely interested in looking around and posting the odd checklist now and then, to doing it every day, almost feverishly, because they know that they're making a difference. So the sowing of the seed may be a small act on our part, but it does bear fruit. We may not see the complete harvest, but I believe it does bear fruit, and I'm seeing it with my students, and they are birding ever since the pandemic. The birding efforts have doubled, and if you look at the Shikra Club page on eBird, earlier there were just a few checklists coming up now and then, and now after the lockdown, everybody is contributing, and they're sending pictures and saying, "Ma'am, what is this bird?" And then if I don't know what it is, I post it to some expert who identifies it. So there's a lot of interaction happening, and it's not just restricted to birds. It's an awareness of everything around us. We've just realized that there's so much fauna right in our backyards. Like recently, I realized that there's an entire family of toads just 2 feet outside my front door, which I hadn't noticed in the past. So like this, some of my students are even reporting seeing cobras in their backyard, kingfishers, picking up fish from their fish tanks. So there's a lot of this awareness happening, and it's a very, very interesting experience, especially if it's shared. I do know that most birders would believe that going on your own, there's very little disturbance, and you're alone with your thoughts, and birding is absolutely wonderful. But when you bird in a group, you have this advantage of so many eyes looking around, and so much more data can be pooled. and there's so much more contribution happening. Of course, if there are a lot of people who are new, there's going to be a lot of disturbance and oohs and ahs initially, which could be a little disturbing. But in the long run, I think this is the way we can get more people involved.
Wonderful, wonderful, Vidya. I think that's very interesting because birding also, there have been several books recently which have also positioned birding as also an important activity that builds mental health, not only birding, nature interactions. And of course, like you said, done alone, it has enormous benefits as well for individuals. But I think you brought the balance very well. So maybe I'll pick up one question that Nishant has posed, which I think partially Prabhakaran and Vidya have answered. But how much do you think it is important for teachers to get involved in citizen science activities? And can you share what works and what doesn't work? I mean, you must have experimented with many citizen science platforms, etc. What kind of features tend to be useful and work with respect to teacher and student or nature clubs kind of environment? Prabhakaran, do you have any thoughts on that?
Especially biology teachers can easily study about these plants than other animals, and they are showing keen interest in observing these plants and animals. Then exceptions are there. Some other teachers are also coming forward for studying these plants and animals.
Sure. Yes. Thanks, Prabhakaran. And how do you think it can be popularized further? Because not all biology teachers are also doing that. So how do you have any ideas on how this can be made more popular?
Yes, we have to establish the eco club in every school. And if there are teachers who are showing keen interest, they can motivate the students, and eco club activities can be made very active. But in all the schools, the eco club may not be active. But in some schools, active eco clubs can be seen under the leadership of some active teachers. If the teachers show keen interest, students will come forward for studying various aspects of plants and animals.
Sure, thanks. Vidya, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, another way of encouraging people from other departments, this is something that has worked at the place where I work, is by, having a sort of celebration. For instance, we just had the Big Butterfly Month celebration, and we had a huge celebration at our college organized by our department. And celebration means we had several webinars, we had virtual walks. So for people who have never seen our campus, we had our students and old students, past students, taking people on a virtual walk around the campus and telling people where you would find this particular butterfly or where you would find that particular butterfly, which is the right season, which is the right tree, and things like that. And we also had, games organized like a butterfly bingo that our students came up with. And before the bingo was organized, the students gave an idea of, interesting snippets about butterflies that are available on campus. So anybody who participated in the game, and there were a lot of people who were from completely non-biology backgrounds, they would have gotten interested in those butterflies, and then they had the game. And also competitions like poster making and wealth from waste and writing competitions, which would encourage the participants to at least read up a little bit on butterflies before they venture into, participating. So this is, I think, one way of bringing in the larger crowd and not just restricting it to, a life science department. And another thing that I found is whenever we go on, let's say, a butterfly survey or a campus bird count, as I told you earlier, there are a lot of people who are curious and they're bound to ask what you're doing. Because to find about 50 people with their necks, up, with their necks craned and their heads up, it's a strange sight. Only if you're a bird, you will understand what they're doing. So people tend to come and ask what you're doing, and automatically they tag along. And several of our colleagues and several of the students from other departments have also been included in this way. And some of them have become so passionate that they still keep contributing to citizen science. It's not just something that is for you. It's not something pleasurable just for you, but it's making a difference without a lot of effort.
Thanks, Prabhakaran and Vidhya. It was very, very engaging, especially for those among us who are in schools and universities. Among the participants, I'm sure those insights are very helpful. So moving on, maybe to Anubhav and Siddharth, there is a question from Nishan. I think I'll just read out the question. It says, how do you guide and inspire guests to observe nature after the trips are over? Of course, you can answer this question, but what I think is underlying this is, how do you make tourism an activity that can potentially contribute to a deeper relationship with nature for the people who come as tourists? What has worked, and what do you guys do, and what is your experience like? And while Siddharth first and then Anubhav next, I encourage those of you who are watching to please pose questions to our citizens panel and for the next round of discussion. Yeah, go ahead, Siddharth, and then Anubhav.
So yes, thanks Nishad for the question. I suppose we met during one of the photo competition in Satpura. So Nishad was one of the participants there. And so I would like to take it on the personal level. It's like thereafter, wherever, so sometimes it happens, your guests are obviously going to travel to different destinations. They're going to encounter different animals and document different things. But sharing never stops. So through Facebook, through WhatsApp, and even through eBird and iNaturalist forums, they keep sharing their photographs and documentation. And now people are even like in pandemic, like none of my guests were traveling. They were like everyone was locked down. Some of them were in India, some of them were abroad, and everything became very silent. So lots of people heard beautiful birds in their backyard. But okay, from photographs, yes, it's easy to identify, uh, much easier to identify birds or mammals and stuff. But how about acoustics, where there is data is still generating and there is no app where you can put a call and then identify, or someone will identify, or machine will do it for you. And that's where a naturalist can chip in. So this relationship just goes on. Second thing is, uh, as a naturalist, we tend to move to different destinations. Like, suppose you have worked in one location for years and then you yourself want a change and you move out to a different destination. So, over there, you try to build up a chain or a platform where whatever you have learned or the self learned things about these beautiful creatures, you try to pass it on to other colleagues and then other subordinates. And that's where you create a bigger picture, where if you are not there, there'll be someone else who will take care of helping your guest to identify things. And apart from just so that's the part A of curiosity. Second thing is, I try to send links from world bird of worlds, and then people can study uh, these maps. They can study, or they can orient themselves over there, and then they can look what's happening with migratory patterns and stuff. So you try to give another push, and you try to continue this through engaging with your guest even after safaris and after their stay is over or they go back to their places. Yeah, over to you, Anubhav.
Thanks, Siddharth. So, well, firstly, like even Siddharth had mentioned that, he tries to get them onto some of these platforms on the ground itself. So I probably don't go as far as that, but I do, in fact, suggest that, these platforms are available for people at large. And so all the various forums that I know of and that I have used, I try to introduce them to that. And some of them do take these on and become active users. Some of them, of course, don't. Many of them probably just come out of curiosity. What's this guy taking people showing insects for? Like, how does that work, and why does that work, and so on. So some of them might be like naturalists who, let's say, are interested in birds, or some who are interested in other taxa, who also want to sort of, it's like a window for them into things that they haven't really paid much attention to before. So I think, yeah, the fact that there is so much happening online today, and probably even offline, but online accessibility is uh, within reach for everyone today. And these sort of forums, not only, I think, do they contribute to science and so on, but the fact is that the peer-to-peer interaction, of course, some platforms have like an AI trying to do human stuff, but other than that, I think what really matters is the peer-to-peer interaction, and how people help each other to figure out uh, how they help each other to figure out how to figure things out. Uh, it's endless. It's a lot of fun and a lot of learning constantly for everyone, not just for the people who are attending, but even for the person who's conducting anything. Because you can't possibly know everything. So there's someone who will know something about something, and there's always a constant exchange of information and learning and so on. So it's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, very, very true. How has all of your experience been with respect to? I mean, I pick up on what you said, Anubhav, about peer-to-peer interaction, and I suspect that's also what people like Prabhakaran and Vidhya are creating when they bring together these eco clubs in schools. It creates a kind of a relationship about a topic of mutual interest. How does it work online? Have you had broadly positive experiences? Because you were mentioning that you have met some students of Prabhakaran online, and many of you mentioned about how people receive help with IDs online. How has that whole experience been? Does it result in sort of good experience, good relationships, or are there also sometimes mixed kind of things? Just curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Largely positive, largely interesting. And see, also, irrespective of what taxa one is interested in, be it plants or birds or whatever other animals, uh, most naturalists are aware of the concept that not all species are available everywhere. So now, me sitting at home in Madras, through these interactions, I'm able to see creatures from all over the country, or maybe even beyond. So for me, it's a very enriching experience. And let's say I come across something that I haven't come across before, because maybe it's not found in my region, or because simply I haven't come across it. So, uh, it's like, of course, you learn from your own experiences, but you can very well learn from others' experiences too. So it's always enriching. It's always interesting. So it's rarely, I can't even think of a bad or a negative experience, really.
Great, good. So I have a very interesting question from Harsha Kumar to all panelists. I'm looking for volunteers who would like to take this on. So the question is, why is citizen science in India being equated with documentation and identification of observations for the most part? How do you think we can fix this? And I think underlying the question, if I read it correctly, is okay. I mean, there is the whole idea of documenting the correct species. Okay, what are all the moths in my campus, etc. But then there is the other side of building a relationship. Introducing people to engage with nature in a certain way, and perhaps engage in conservation and things like that. I see that is underlying, but I'm happy to hear what you. Does anyone like to take this on?
Yes.
Go ahead, Siddharth.
Yeah, I while I was jotting down my notes, I was thinking on these lines, because even like most of the posters and stuff we have seen in conference is mostly data generation by involving citizens, and citizens means like there's no bounds, like right from all these box and all these data collection things and birding and stuff, people, it's encouraged. Like we do encourage people get their kids out, and then even like those who are sitting in the balcony and doing backyard bird count, like retired people, they are also part of it. But I think in India, it's we are in one of the first phases where everything we are just collecting, documenting, interacting, and then like our citizen science is still percolating down like a daily habit in people. And whereas India is one of the biodiverse region, and we had lots of movement in different areas where people fought for their right for the water or the clean rivers, or people have raised voice against not putting down any trees and like in their surroundings, or like something happens in RA and people from Bangalore, they also contribute to it. So it's not that we are not participating, but it's not happening on day to day level, or it's not like whenever there is a movement it just rise like a tide, and then it just everything becomes, or it seems like it's just settling down. Whereas when I see it I see it from a different perspective, where like especially for Pune Bird Atlas, we try to we are trying to achieve like long-term monitoring, and then make people aware on daily basis that what's happening with the birds in their backyards and in surroundings of cities, so that we don't have to raise all these like whenever we need support, people are already there, and instead of like raising their voice at the end, it never happens. Like so right now I see it's like a first phase that we are collecting documentation, and we are being so much aware and publishing it on open forum where it's open for or accessible for everyone. And next thing would be all our decisions would get directed based on all these documentation and things which have been collected by participatory approach. Yeah.
So you see this as like a foundation potentially for something else that can happen over and above this.
Yeah,
any thoughts on this, Prabhakaran or Vidhya? So do you also agree that many citizen science initiatives are sort of citizen data collection initiatives, and that we need to do more? I know that by having eco clubs, for example, this is more than data collection. This is also bringing people together. So what are your thoughts, Vidhya or Prabhakaran?
Yeah, so I think data collection is important, but it shouldn't be an end in itself. So I agree with Siddharth. It is a first stage. It is an important stage, and I think if the data that we collect as mere citizens, let's say, is going to be of any use to the so-called scientists themselves, I think some amount of that has to, kind of be understood by the scientific community, and not just as some, random efforts on the part of some random bunch of people. So I think we are still in that first stage, and we still need to take it further. I think that will happen automatically. We just need to be a little patient.
Yeah, Prabhakaran, did you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, if you if you collect this data regularly, it will immensely help the scientific community. Whether it is that of butterflies or moths or spiders. If you systematically do this data, collect the data, it will immensely help the scientific community. So we have to inculcate this awareness among the students at first. Then they will actively participate in this citizen science movements.
Great. So let me come back to that thing that came up earlier. I mean, some of you are doing atlases, biodiversity walks, eco clubs, etc. One thing that comes to my mind is now with COVID-19 and the related activities. How are you guys coping with these kind of citizen engagements in the times that we are in? Any thoughts or any remarks on that? Anyone would like to go on? Maybe Anubhav?
So I was actually already in talks with some schools for for conducting some sort of sessions for the kids to introduce them to the world of insects and how they are important, the roles that they play in the ecosystem, and so on and so forth. I've even gone and documented the diversity in one school, and so I had been in this process, and so this COVID happened, and then of course the classes idea of having classes went through the window. But then through the same window came online classes, and so yeah, I've been doing a bit of that, and so it's been quite all right. And so, like you had asked earlier, how I keep them engaged. So I have made a WhatsApp group where I encourage the parents to join, and well, if the kids are on WhatsApp, then great. If not, I encourage the parents to further encourage this interest in their kids. And well, we all have limitations in such times, especially in terms of movement, physical movement, and so on. But that being said, especially for the factor that I'm interested in, which is insects and spiders, they're everywhere. Like, I mentioned earlier, I live in a concrete space. I have a few pots outside my main door. I have a few pots on my balcony. And it's probably not even because of the pots, but there's diversity everywhere. And I've had a great time in these lockdown months because I was able to observe the diversity around home like I have never done before. Like 4 months of intensive observations in and around home. So, well, there are always challenges, and then there are always opportunities. It's you just have to figure out a balance between the two, I guess.
Yeah, I would like to add to Anubhav about this. Prashanth, are you there?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, what I experienced is as soon as COVID hit, people took little bit of time to figure out how things will roll down and stuff like that, and everything happened virtual. Like we were, we were sharing photographs, and lots of talks and stuff happened initially. Like it was like a boom. Like today there is one webinar on birds, there is one webinar on insects, there is something happening over there on conservation, and it was like a boom. And now people are going back to the normal pace of life, or they're trying to like merge mix of both doing virtual and then real work. So our main work of Pune Bird Atlas went on a hold, but then we contributed on Backyard Bird Count, and then our interaction on WhatsApp and forums like that was more active. Whereas personally, I took a break from these virtual meetings and then classroom sessions and stuff, and I started I tried to explore something new, because my kids of 5 years and 7 years old in my neighborhood, while I was recording bird calls, they were interested in that, and then they become my birding buddies. And then to cut down on the screen time, we meet for storytelling sessions. So every alternate day, I just go online, and we have a small group, and I tell them stories about birds, maybe sounds, and then like personalized stories about wildlife. And that also helps, because now when they are going online almost like throughout the day, they want something to sit back, relax, and then still connect. Like next day when they open their windows and they hear all these food begging calls of Asian quail, they try to connect themselves with that. So I try to I tried my taking a different loop or a different way to keep interaction going on rather than going virtually.
Great. I mean, we have unfortunately only 5 minutes left. So what I think I would like to do is pose a last question, which each one of you are welcome to answer in brief in 1 or 2 minutes. And I'll go in the reverse order. I'll start with Prabhakaran, and Vidhya will have the last word before we close. So I would like to hear your thoughts on what, I mean, now that you are aware that actually this is, I think, one of the last few sessions, I believe, in the in this very interesting conference on citizen science. So what is your thought as teachers, as walkers, as naturalists, as tour operators? What are your thoughts to the wider citizen science community? In which direction do you think we should be going? What are the kind of resources that we think we should plan for as a citizen science community moving forward? Prabhakaran, can we start with you? What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, sir. During this COVID period, plans are actually flourishing. But in Kannur, when the officials and district administration is very busy with COVID duty, in Kannur, mangroves in large scales have been destroyed in the name of developmental activities. Because nobody, even the officials, district administration cannot concentrate on this, but they are busy with the COVID duty. So mangroves have been in large scale have been destroyed, and through the citizen science project, I have drawn the attention of a lot of students, and now we are collecting the saplings of a lot of mangroves, and we are planting the saplings along the coastal belt now. So, even though plants are growing in some other parts, but when the officials are busy with this COVID duty, in the name of development activities, the mangroves in large scales are being destroyed in Kannur district. So we are trying to draw the attention of the district administration to stop this destruction of mangroves.
Sure, interesting.
Yes, and citizen science.
Go ahead.
Yes, citizen science. Yes, can play a vital role in reducing the large scale destruction of mangroves.
Sure, thank you. Anubhav, what are your thoughts on this broader question on what should we as a community look at next? What kind of resources or initiatives should there be?
I think majority of us, or well, at least majority of people, are very unawares of most aspects of what we call nature, and so I have like this Instagram account where I post only insects and spiders, and the most common reaction that I get is, I didn't know there are so many types. And I'm like, I have like 1,000 posts and there's like 1 million arthropods out there, so you're not even reaching the surface, leave alone scratching it. So people are so unaware of the kind of diversity that is around us. They don't even know the trees that there are in their own houses. They don't know what they're called. They don't know whether it's edible. They don't know about all the so-called weed plants, which are actually the native natural plants and the local providence plants around them. So there's a huge gap in people's understanding of our nature and the actual facts. So I think there's a huge bridge to be built and crossed. And definitely citizen science is a great platform to do that and to get people engaged in such activities. And, like I said, this peer-to-peer interaction goes a long way in engaging these people, because there's only so much that machines or computers or AI can engage people. It's the fact that you can go onto a platform, interact with, people who have similar interests, and maybe share your ideas and information and so on. So there's tons to be done, and there's a million ways to do it. And the internet and the various platforms are daily providing more and more means to do it. But nonetheless, so like I don't have the I don't have the kind of reach that maybe school college teachers do, but each one in our own way, even if we reach out to, so like for example in social media, since I post a whole lot of this stuff, some aunt or some cousin or some friend will suddenly WhatsApp me one photo, and I'm like, and they'll be like, dude, I found this thing at home, and for the first time, I didn't kill it. So, I mean, it's great to hear a reaction like that, and the fact that they're actually taking a step back and rethinking about what's around them, and not just going ballistic with the broomstick. So, I think there are various ways to reach out to people, and in whatever capacity one does, I think it's just fantastic.
So, thanks, Anubhav. We are almost on at time. So, closing remarks from Siddharth, and finally from Vidhya. Go ahead, Siddharth.
Yeah. So I see like citizen science, different citizen science projects are happening. And now through this conference, people have come to know, okay, someone is working on weather parameters in my city, someone is working on mangroves, someone is working on birds. And this is the best opportunity where people started interacting. So next phase or next step would be sharing all different data and coming up with the whole and soul picture together for their own surroundings. And I see all these different citizen science projects merging or going hand in hand to create a bigger picture. And this was one of the motivation to join Citizen Science Forum and contribute over there as a participant.
Great. So that's your message to the projects, to try and figure out ways of coming together. Nice. Your final word, Vidhya, from the Citizens panel on what are your thoughts in the next 2 years?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think everything has to come together finally so that we have some consolidated picture of, let's say, what lives in our backyards or in a green space that we frequent. And another thing that I find really important is every citizen science group must be connected to an expert. By expert, I don't mean somebody who is actively doing the science, but somebody who's been in citizen science for a long enough time to be able to guide the citizen science group. Otherwise, in our own group, what I found is we make mistakes. We probably misidentify a lot of words, but then there's somebody who tells us, look, this isn't available in your area, so probably you saw something else. So I think that expert opinion is very important in every citizen science group to keep us on the right track.
Great. Thanks a lot, Anubhav, Siddharth, Prabhakaran, and Vidhya for making the citizens panel of the National Conference on Citizen Science so engaging. For me, at least, it was a very engaging conversation. I just wanted to close with one remark. I'm sure all of you will share, which is that while many of us are indeed on these platforms, I think over the next decade, we should try and get those who are unable to, either because of language or technology barriers, to access these platforms. And so I invite you all, and as well as all the participants in the Citizen Science Conference, that we can try and make this a more inclusive movement as we go along. So with this, I think based on the chat, I think I hand over back to Akshata to formally close this panel discussion. And thanks a lot on behalf of the organizers to each one of our panelists. Akshata?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Prashanth, for moderating this session. And also, I would like to thank all the panelists, Vidhya, Anubhav, Prabhakaran. Despite your connectivity issues, thank you so much for joining us, and also Siddharth for joining us at such short notice. Thank you so much. And with this, we come to the end of the conference also. And now we are also joined in by all our committee members to formally close this conference. Thank you so much. Over to you, Nandini.
Shannon. Okay, so actually I want to thank this awesome panel. It was really fun to hear your discussions, and I think your points were so relevant. So I also want to thank the panel, and I also want to really thank all the participants of this conference. I think that none of us really knew what we were getting into when we were organizing this. It was quite an adventure for us, both technically but also conceptually, to think about how to set this up. And I really want to thank all the participants for embracing it, embracing all the success and all the challenges that we faced throughout the conference and before, and for really embracing the concept of interaction. I really think that everyone did such a nice job trying to communicate, sharing ideas, sharing concepts, having heated discussions, excited discussions. So I really do want to thank this. It's been an incredible experience to be part of this myself. I have enjoyed being a listener and a participant. I've learned so much. I've heard a lot about things I didn't even know were happening in this country. And for me, my takeaway is that we have to do this much more often, that this has to be a thing that we continue to do as a community. I hope at least every 2 years. I don't know if we can do it every year, but at least to find out what is going on in the country, and to maybe try to consolidate our interests and needs a bit better, because it is hard to sustain citizen science projects with small budgets and small numbers of personnel. So we might be able to actually do more if we work together. So I see the power in that from this conference, and I will just hand it over to Nandini. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shannon. I just wanted to say it was really a lot of fun being part of the conference. It's been fun to engage over Slack with participants, especially. I feel like unlike a traditional conference, well, we had a lot of challenges with the whole virtual thing, but unlike a traditional conference, maybe it's really cool that we get to engage with people, participants and speakers for much longer than you would have at a traditional conference. You interact face-to-face for a few minutes, maybe. Sure, we missed the coffee breaks. But like citizen science itself, I really feel like this conference has been powered by the participants, and Slack, I mean, is buzzing all the time. It's really, really inspiring to be part of this. I've also had a great time working with the committee and Akshata and Amit, so it's really been a great experience. Maybe Farida.
Thank you, Nandini. In fact, I would like to thank first to Suhail for co-opting me into this organizing committee. And it was such a wonderful experience. So many interesting talks, in fact, I have decided the next 2 days I'm going to actually be on the Slack and read up all the posters and all the other chats and things, because there's so much more I need to learn. And there is so much to do. And coming from the state where I am, AP and Telangana, I want to motivate the citizens to get onto these channels and platforms, and let's contribute more on the biodiversity of our two states. So wherever you are, I think we should proactively reach out to citizens, let them join this movement, because there's a lot to do in this movement. So thank you, all the organizing committee members and all the participants, for making this conference a great success. Thank you. Over to Prabhakaran.
You're on mute, Prabhakaran.
It's been fun. Thank you very, very much, all you participants who kind of joined. And, it was a lot of work for you people to participate as well, because you had to make your presentations, record your presentations, send it up and things like that. So firstly, thanks a lot to all the participants who actively participated on this in the conference. It's been a long felt need to have a citizen science group and energize it in this country, in India, where we've seen this grow all over the world. In India, it's been kind of, one thought it was not very active. We needed very much to have this conference. We needed it 5 years ago, but better late than never. And so this particular conference, I think, has also brought out all of us together and has shown the kind of diversity of activities that each of us do. And I'm sure it spurred on a lot of other people to do more. Unfortunate that we cannot meet together and then have a full-time, dedicated 4-day session. I really hope next time we'll be able to do it. But I think this must be an annual affair. And I think we are on a growth trajectory on citizen science in India with actually this particular conference. I think this is a landmark conference to spur on increasing citizen science activity in India, we'll wait and see. Thank you very much. Thank you all the participants. And let me tell you, it's been fun working with the committee members. We used to have 2 o'clock meetings every week, and we were reviewing everything, and we were chatting and talking, and of course, Suhail who was directing the show. Over to you, Suhail.
Okay, gosh, this is all too much for me. Okay, just to share with you, you may know this or not, but when we opened registrations over the course of, in the run-up to the conference, about 950 people registered for the conference, which was far, far more than we ever expected. We were expecting 100, 150. And then we thought, oh, 950 have registered, but only 50 will turn up. But surprisingly, I was looking at the statistics, and over 500 participants have logged into Slack and have been getting into the channels and reading the messages, if not posting messages themselves. So that's an amazing kind of turnout from the registrants. And every day there have been at least 100 participants posting messages. And this, of course, has led to the vibrant discussions that we've been seeing. So it's really my great pleasure to thank the various individuals who have worked to make this conference happen. The two most important are those I think whose names you know. One is our brilliant conference coordinator, Akshata Pradhan, who many of you have been in touch with. And without Akshata, none of this would have been possible. The second among them is Amit Kumar, who has worked on virtually all technological aspects of this conference, from the website to the complicated live streaming, you name it. Deepest thanks to Amit. Thanks also to all the volunteers who help keep the channels and conversations streamlined and working smoothly. These are Arjun, Harsha, Mrinal, Niveda, Pooja, Swati, and Vallari. Thank you. The steering committee, of course, has been working on this conference for over 3 months. They are Farida Tampal, Pankaj Sheksaria, Nandini Rajamani, R. Prabhakaran, Shannon Olson, and Suhail Khadar. As you know, the conference is organized by the Biodiversity Collaborative as part of the run-up to the forthcoming National Mission on Biodiversity and Human Well-being. And this mission is being incubated by the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India and also the National Biodiversity Authority. So thanks to all these groups. And of course, thanks to everybody in the conference, the keynote speakers, the panelists, the moderators, those who presented talks and posters, and of course, all of you who have been participating and sharing your thoughtful questions, comments, and suggestions. I want to remind you to please not to forget to fill in the feedback form, which you'll find on the channel named #feedback. So please, a Google form, it'll take you only 5 minutes. Please do fill it out, it'll really help. Do remember also that the conference workspace on Slack will remain open until the 10th of October. So there's no reason why the interactions, discussions, and arguments will have to stop today. They can continue. And just like Farida said, I missed quite a number of talks and other posters, and I plan to continue looking at those and interacting for the next days. So thanks again all. Stay safe and healthy, and see you in the future, either online or hopefully in person as well. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.